Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and it's time for more Theros Beyond Death spoilers, and as of the end of this video, we will have 186 out of the 254 covered. And as usual, with the way they arranged these, there are some pretty spicy, interesting cards in this group as well. So first up, we got one that I forgot to include yesterday, which is Whirlwind Denial. Now, if they would have named it Whirlwind of Denial, it would have been very ironic, considering how they've mismanaged Standard lately. But this is pretty interesting. I mean, I'd honestly consider this to be like an outside of Standard grade counterspell. So it's single blue, but 3 costs, which puts it a little bit more flexible than just the baseline of cancel. Instant speed, obviously, and for each spell and ability your opponents control, let me just add on the stack currently when you cast this, counter it unless its controller pays 4. So if you're wondering what they meant by control, it's just that are currently on the stack. That just basically is the only way that they could control a spell or ability. So, I mean, when would it go from 4 to 8? Well, technically never, because it would be 4 for each of them, but when would you counter multiple? Well, when they stacked up multiple. So, besides something like a Storm deck where they just put a bunch of copies onto the stack, like in a row simultaneously, or a big giant stack of triggered abilities, there's not much past that would actually occur in a game normally. But just think about it. Wouldn't this be wonderful if you just board wiped them and they had like a Midnight Reaper? So it says, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Midnight Reaper deals 1 damage to you and you draw a card. So they instantly stack up like 5 of those triggers on the stack. Well, that's an ability, because remember, this is loyalty ability, triggered ability, and activated ability. It just says ability. So you throw this on the stack in response, counter every single one of those unless its controller pays 4 per each of them. And as much as I don't like the whole, make it cost slightly more because it's just unreliable, 4 is a lot. So honestly, even if you're just like holding this saying, well, the next obnoxious Planeswalker ability or ETB effect or a spell, and the next, any of that goes onto the stack, I'm going to counter it unless they pay for it. Just single target, there you go. It would still be pretty reliable. So this is overall a really, really, really good card. And of course, the flavor text is no, no, and no. Alright, next up we've got Altar of the Pantheon. This is a 3-cost artifact, a common, believe it or not, and it says your devotion to each color and each combination of colors is increased by 1. So what an absolute pain in the ass. Everybody knows how to count devotion. You look at the damn symbols. Ta-da, done. Oh, but now when you're calculating devotion, don't forget to look at this colorless permanent. This is so forgettable and so stupid, and I honestly don't know what they mean by your devotion to each color and each combination of colors is increased by 1. There is no such thing as devotion to combination of colors. You just add them up individually. So, like, if you have a 2-color permanent, do you add 2? Like, to the individual? I have no idea how this card works, and I don't think Wizards does either. What a truly, truly stupid card this is. Plus, let's say you're running red devotion. Why not just drop in a red permanent with at least 1 devotion? Instead of this. Something that, does something at all, because this does nothing. Although it does have the activated ability, add 1 mana of any color. Okay. If you control a god or demigod or a legendary enchantment, you gain 1 life. So that kind of makes it worth it, but I think people are going to constantly miscount their devotion because of this, and like I said, I don't know what the hell they mean by each combination of colors. I mean, the way they wrote it, my devotion to white goes up by 1, and my devotion to white-black goes up by 1, and they put the word and. So technically, my devotion to white and white-green and white-black and white-blue and whatever I didn't say yet goes up by 1. So my devotion actually goes up by 5 or 6. I think I'd have to like draw/graph this, and I'm not going to, but I'm just going to assume that they phrased that like crap and are going to make a ruling or an oracle text update to cover for their idiotic lack of writing ability and testing. So next up we've got Taranika, Acro and Veteran. This is a legendary creature, human soldier, double white, triple cost 3/3 with vigilance. And whenever Tanika, Acro, and Veteran attacks, untap another target creature you control. Until end of turn, this creature has base power of toughness 4/4 and gains indestructible. So this is just female Ghost Gideon, right? I mean, Gideon got his sex changed and then got resurrected. That's what's going on here. Although, Taranika sounds like a female's name, but that don't look like a female. I don't know. Well, you thought you were free of Gideon. Nope, you gotta deal with this bullshit. So, I mean, at least we'll go with she, can't protect herself at all. So yeah, you got a 4/4 indestructible, but then you just swung with a 3/3, so good luck with that. But you could stack up auras on her or whatever. Or just use what everybody's using to slightly warp standard, God's willing. Next up, we've got Guardian of the Labyrinth of Scophos. It's a 4-cost 3/4, and if you pay 1, it gets +1/-1 until end of turn, so a more fair fire-breathing ability. And it has the strangely specific ability of whenever another target creature becomes the target of a land you control named Labyrinth of Scophos, you may have Scophos' Labyrinth Guardian fight that creature. So in other words, it's the Minotaur inside of the Labyrinth, and you guys know the story. So that land, by the way, was pay 4, tap it, remove target attacking or blocking creature from combat. So I mean, this is only a 3/4. You could pay 1 more and flip it to 4/3. You could pay 1 more, flip it to 5/2. In any case, it's probably not a real good fight, but if you strap anything to this guy for equipment or enchantment, you could just remove 1 creature per turn. So, I mean, yeah, you could get something out of this, but that's a lot of different cards that have to align correctly in the correct order. Next up, we've got Dreamshaper Shaman. It's a 6-cost 5/4, which is a little bit of an ask in red. They don't get that high of mana that easily, but it's an enchantment creature, Minotaur Shaman, and at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 3 and sacrifice a non-land permanent. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land permanent card. Put that card directly onto the battlefield, and the rest onto the bottom of your library in a random order. So, unreliable blind free casting with no limit on it. No color restriction, no mana restriction, size restriction, nothing. I honestly can't even tell if this will be usable in some degenerate free casting shit. I'd say no, but maybe if you mix it with blue and start arranging things, I guess. So I guess with this costing 6, running like a 45 land deck with nothing but him, like ramp, draw, scry, and whatever, and then like 1 giant permanent, probably not a realistic deck, but you never know. So yeah, this is free casting. I hate it. Let's move on. So next up, we got another mythic reveal, and it's the mystery missing Planeswalker. We did have some art for this already, but nobody knew what he would be. Well, except that his robe was white and green. So hey, look, he's a white and green Planeswalker. So a 4/4, nice. His name is Calyx, Destiny's Hand. Obviously, everybody's just going to call him Alex. I mean, clearly the C is silent. And he has +1, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an enchantment card from among them and put that card into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I love like pretending to randomize 3 cards. Yeah, sure, that's doable. And -3, exile target creature or enchantment you don't control until target enchantment you control leaves the battlefield. So you basically tuck it under one of your enchantments, and if they manage to destroy that, they get theirs back. And then -7, return all enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So the more you're losing and the more you milled yourself, which in these colors, not much, the more you get out of that. So, I mean, not necessarily devastating, but it could be. You could certainly run this in like an aura-heavy enchantment creature deck, but it would almost like not have to be devotion. It would have to be like constellation based. So I don't know. It's really hard to say if a deck that could support this card would be like absolutely tier 1 playable. It very well could be, or it could very well not be. I mean, you just never know until you see how the chips fall, basically. He's at least interesting and not inherently overpowered, but we'll see. You never know. He can definitely stack up those creatures and stack up those auras, that's for sure. Next up, we've got a 100% devotion card. It's about damn time. Thassa's Oracle. It's a 1/3 Merfolk Wizard, and when Thassa's Oracle enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue, so it should be quite a bit. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And if X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. Oh, wonderful! So a blue devotion stall card. That is just fantastic. You guys know the long history of alternate win conditions being everybody's favorite thing in Standard. Oh wait, no, the exact opposite. So early game, you could dig through 10 cards and just handpick exactly what you want and put it right back on the top of your library, draw it next turn. So that's bullshit. Then late game, it's just that stupid run your library down to 0 Jace, but a little bit earlier. And both of them are going to be legal at the same time, which is going to encourage people to actually play that stupid degenerate shit deck. So What did they think people would do with this that would even resemble fun or fair gameplay? I'm very curious. They're just going to go get a stupid, time wipe with it. The thing is, though, that deck tends to play 3 colors. So how much blue devotion could they really have? Now, that said, could you build that deck now with this new set in mono blue? Absolutely. I literally played against it earlier today. About 30 cards in the deck were counter spells, and the rest were those stupid Flash Merfolk and a couple other just bullshit waste of time cards. We went to like turn 30, their deck was almost out of cards, and they won with the stupid add a counter every time you piss off your opponent Merfolk. I literally tried to destroy those Merfolk 11 times. He was playing against my Golgari kill deck. So if I can't kill a creature with 11 fucking tries against mono blue, I think they have the draw power and everything else to make that deck work without even the release of this new set. Just wait till it comes out. Mono blue is going to be one of the worst decks you've ever seen in your life, especially with that stupid sea hippo thing. Yeah, this is just an absolute disgrace to the game. Next up, Eidolon of Obstruction. It's a 2/1 for 2, and it has first strike, and loyalty abilities of planeswalkers your opponents control cost 1 more to activate. So a lot of people are asking, wait, so does it take a negative ability and a positive ability and like add 1, and does it go negative both directions without actually benefit my opponent? That doesn't make sense. It means 1 mana, not 1 loyalty. So they're paying the loyalty costs, be it positive or negative, which are both considered payment. So yeah, if it was phrased 1 loyalty, I don't know how this card would work. But in addition to the loyalty payment, in any direction, they have to also pay 1 generic mana to activate the ability of a planeswalker. Oh, I just love how people get into arguments about how this works and they don't even realize, no, that's the mana symbol. That's a mana cost. So, I mean, this is neat. Screw Super Friends, whatever. It's still only, it's 1. Like, who cares? It isn't legendary, though. That's kind of funny. So next up, Sea God Scorn. It's a 6-cost double blue sorcery and return up to 3 target creatures and or enchantments to their owner's hands. Or you could just, for 6, return everything they own to their hand. There was one of those in Ixalan, but there was also one of them, like a weaker version, printed later. So this is completely pointless. Próximo tenemos Tejedora del Destino. And esta mujer aquí is going to totally wreck your shit. So yeah, Discount Nissa here is 2/3 for 2, which is already pretty good. Also human, you might get something out of that. And creature and enchantment spells you control can't be countered, so that's nice. I like that. Especially since mono blue counter everything aids is going to be the top deck in the world as soon as this drops. And then if you pay 4, target land you control becomes an XX elemental until end of turn with haste and trample. Yeah, haste and trample, where X is the number of enchantments you control, it's still a land. I really actually thought they were going to say devotion. But even for 4 mana, that would be a little much. So, I mean, yeah, how many enchantments could you really reasonably have in play? But, that said, if it's, 4, 5, 6, 7, you can do some damage with this. But unlike Nissa, who comes into play shaking that world and shaking dead ass, it's only until end of turn. The way it should be. So overall, I mean, I don't like turning lands into creatures and chucking them at people because it's inherently not safe. They could just blow it up. But I mean, a big ol' XX with trample and haste, I mean, let's go. Next up, Furious Rise. It's a 3-cost red enchantment, single devotion, unfortunately. And at the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until you exile another card with Furious Rise. So interesting way to phrase it. That's not how that normally works. So you kind of have to create a custom exile zone because, you know how like you put a, I don't know, what is it, an adventure counter or whatever on the cards that exile themselves, and then you know that you can cast them from exile because they were cast as an adventure first. Yeah, they track it with counters for a reason. So this one doesn't get a Perforos counter or whatever. You just have to remember that it was put in exile and when and why and in what order. So like I said, you just have to kind of create your own separate exile zone, which, I mean, is weird. I do like that the playability of the card, first of all, it says play instead of cast. So if you catch a land with it, you can play the land. But I do like that it persists even past the power 4 or greater check. So if you had something 4 or greater, you exiled the top card during your end step, and then they blew it up, you can still, even though you no longer control a creature with 4 power, still cast that card. Or play that card, like as long as this is in play, I assume. And even then, I'm not sure. You might actually be able to do it even if they blow up this enchantment. I think it grants the playability like marker to the card, not maintains the castability or playability of it using this enchantment, but I'm not sure because it doesn't specify. So once again, we'll have to wait for the rulings to come out for sure, but I think it works that way. Next up, we have Narrador de Clan Lagona. Damn it, that's the American, it would be clan, not clan. Hey, when it's an exact verbatim word in both, I'm going to pronounce it wrong every damn time. Anyway, this is, of course, Clan Lagon narrator, and it's a Centaur advisor, a single devotion, unfortunately, 3/4 for 4. And when it enters the battlefield, you may put target enchantment card from your graveyard on top of your library. If you do, gain life equal to its converted mana cost. So the harder you go, the bigger the card, the bigger the loss that ended up in your graveyard before, the more benefit you get out of it. Kind of a neat card. I just love how he's the narrator and he's like, he's telling a story like, hey guys, remember when this card was still alive? Let me tell you a story. Things were so much better then. Oh, and by the way, it's back, bitch! Next up, we've got Enigmatic Incarnation. It's a 2-cost enchantment, and at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another enchantment. If you do, search your library for a creature card, so not necessarily an enchantment creature, with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrificed enchantment's converted mana cost. So on the dot, not more, not less, exactly equal to. Then put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So it's kind of narrow, which makes it kind of like unpredictable, unreliable. But I've said that before and people have done some crazy shit with it. So there's a nearly identical card called Birthing Pod and it is banned in Modern. Okay, so let's just say there's some degenerate chain together shit you can do with this. So let's just pretend every single creature in your entire deck is an enchantment creature. Well, every single end step you could go like 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, then 8, and eventually you just ramp up to something so broken you basically just won the game. But there's not a lot of 7+ CMC stuff that's like really, really good and playable in Standard at all, let alone in those colors. I mean, green has a couple, but they're not really game ending. Black probably has the most of them. So yeah, I don't know. This is one of those, like, it's either going to take off in a crazy deck or it's not. And then if the whole deck's built around this card, well, good luck getting this card out. You still got to go in your deck and find it, plus actually get it into play, pay for it, color fix it, the whole shebang. So, I don't know. I feel like probably it won't be played. And that is it for today's spoilers. So can't wait for Mono Blue to ruin the game again. I can tell you with 100% certainty, it is going to get to the point where people are going to want a ban, and Wizards might have to comply with that. So feel free to call this Theros broken by design, or Theros dead on arrival, or any other clever renaming, because that's what it is. Thanks, Wizards, for ruining Standard yet again. Get out the ban hammer and start warming up your swing early here. I'll see you guys next video.